Sandra, welcome to another episode Asexualise, my asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, so subscribe and hit that bell icon right now. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about asexuals who are in relationships with other asexuals or sexuals. So a lot of people are like, can asexuals have relationships? Do they have relationships? And how does that even work? And people make the mistake of thinking, oh, if some asexuals don't like sex, it means they can't be in a relationship, or they don't want a relationship, or they don't need a relationship, and it's just impossible for them to have one, which is simply not true. So in this Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month video, I want to discuss exactly that. Relationships where asexuals are with other asexuals or sexuals, and how does that work? I'm going to quote from my book. I'm going to read some stories out in here, the ones that specifically are for those who are in relationships. And if you've got this book at home, follow along with me. Otherwise, you can get a copy of it from Amazon and just enjoy. It's called Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, a celebration of asexual diversity. And Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month is to celebrate our diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it. So Robin's story is a very short, brief one sentence. Are you currently in a relationship? And if so, is it with another asexual? If yes, do they identify the same as you, or how do they identify? Or is it a sexual person, and how is either working out? This person, Robin, says, I'm with another asexual. It's working out great. So I do think that if you're an asexual person who is in a relationship with another asexual, it can be a lot easier because you've got someone who's very similar to you in your sexuality. However, not everyone in this book is in a relationship with another asexual. So, Cassidy's story. I'm married to a very sexual, bisexual, genderqueer, man-type person. That's how he describes himself. It works because we are completely honest with each other. My coming out as asexual actually helped, because he thought that I just didn't want to have sex with him. But now he understands that I don't want to have sex with anyone. We do have sex fairly regularly, once a weekish, but it's kind of like I know he does this thing for me that he doesn't enjoy, i.e. watching bad TV, clothes shopping, because I like it. And he wants to spend time with me. And so I have sex with him because he likes it and I want to spend time with him. But I get to pick the music. If he asks if we can have sex and I don't want to, I say no, and he respects that. So years ago, I was in a long-term relationship with a heterosexual person. In fact, the majority of my life, I've been in relationships with heterosexuals or dated heterosexuals, right? And so I do remember, in terms of like having sex with my last long-term ex, don't have sex anymore, that, it's kind of like I liked foreplay back then. And I wasn't interested really in the intercourse, but it was consensual with him. But it's like, because he did loads of kissing and foreplay with me, the kissing is what I really wanted more than the foreplay, but because he did that with me, then it was kind of like, oh, now he wants his sex. So yeah, I'll give him the sex because he's given me the kissing and the foreplay. Do you know what I mean? So these days I don't even like being nude in front of anyone. But back then that was where I was at. And so I do understand where this person, Cassidy, is coming from, in the fact that, they're just seeing their sexual, bisexual, genderqueer, man type person they're married to as someone who they adore and they love and they like spending time with. And so they do that as something to do together, an activity to do together. Just like they say that their husband is, well, I don't know if they call them a husband if they identify as genderqueer. Their partner they're married to, just as they say that their partner does things that they like doing, but their partner probably doesn't, they're willing to have sex even though they're not really into it because they want to spend time with their partner. I think that's a really nice way of looking at it. It seems like it's quite a non-pressurized situation they've got going on, and they both, seem to be cool with it. So it's good if an asexual person is okay with having sex and just sees it as a thing that they share with their partner. But if anyone's sex repulsed, obviously, then that's a lot harder to do, if at all. So, Geeks Vanderpool's story, or Geeksy, Geeske. I can't pronounce that name very well. Geeksky, probably Geeksky Vanderpool. Are you currently in a relationship? And if so, is it with another asexual? I am currently in a relationship with an asexual man, and I have been in a relationship with him for 4 years and 2 months. He identifies the same as me. It is working out well. We love each other and have the same sexual need. Equals not. I absolutely love this. I love it when I see asexuals in relationships with other asexuals. I mean, obviously, it can work out with different sexual orientations, but I do have a warm, soft spot for when I hear asexuals in relationships with other asexuals, because it is hard to find the right asexual partner because we're all so different. We're all so spread out all across the universe, the world, if you like. I was talking to a guy actually from an asexual dating group earlier, and he was really nice to talk to, but we're just so different. Not only are we in completely different countries that's miles apart from each other, he was saying that his personality is not very romantic. And I am really romantic in my personality. I'm a hyper romantic. So we're very opposite. Even though some of the things in the relationship were very similar or the same one in terms of what we would be looking for. So, Stephen Smith's story. This is page 306 of the book, if you've got it. Are you current relationship? And if so, is it with another asexual? If yes, do they identify the same as you? Or how do they identify? Or is it a sexual person? And how is either working out? Yes, says Stephen. It's a wonderful relationship. Very little kissing and even a little sex. I do what I have to do to keep the relationship. If I enjoy being with her, I do whatever it takes to make her happy, but I try not to think about it. So yes, this person seems to be in a relationship with someone who's not asexual. But I think it's good that they have found a way of making it work for them. So, Isadora's story. Are you currently in a relationship? And if so, is it with another asexual? If yes, do they identify the same as you? Or how do they identify? Or is it a sexual person that you're with? And how is either working out? My husband is allosexual, in other words, not asexual. But he has asked me about asexuality, and he understands to a certain extent how I feel, as I am sex positive. We do negotiate times to have sex. He will let me know in advance that he's interested, and unless I'm really not feeling up to it, I'll have sex with him. It works out really well for us in that he gets to have the sex he wants while my boundaries are respected. And I have to say that when I was in a long-term relationship and last had sex, that guy was very good at stopping when I said I wanted to stop. So I haven't had sex since 2011. I can't bring myself to do that ever again. I just couldn't do it after I left that relationship. Well, we split up. When I say left, it was actually him that split up with me, but I was quite happy about it because we split up years before and he stalked me the whole time. So I wanted to make sure that he left me that time. And it was good for me. He tried to come back and it wasn't good. He wasn't a good guy. He was good sexually, but he wasn't good in other ways, which is kind of weird, but I'm glad about that. So when he was having sex with me, he would be very kind, caring, considerate, thoughtful, the opposite of what he was like the rest of his life with me. He was quite an abusive person, but when he was sexual with me, he was very nice, always put my needs first, and he always would stop if I said, I just don't want to do this anymore. He used to check in saying, are you sure? And I would say yes. So I think that's so important, that if you are in a relationship with a heterosexual and you're asexual and you are having sex, that you can just stop at any point in time and they won't carry on if you don't want it, or if you get too repulsed during it, or you get too uncomfortable or too painful. Obviously that's the same with any sexuality. That person should stop. I think if you're an asexual person who's really not into sex and you're not really that keen on it, or you just would rather not bother, you're more likely to want to stop during it. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's really important, if you've got a person that will put your needs first. So if you are an asexual person who's in a relationship with a heterosexual, for example, I think it's really important that the heterosexual will stop at any point that you're uncomfortable with. Any point is very, very important. And, if you don't want to have sex, you shouldn't be having sex. You should not get into a relationship with someone who expects that from you and stay with that person if you don't want it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just not good for you. It's hard if you find out you're asexual partway through a relationship. I think that's one of the hardest things ever, because it might just be that you end up not being compatible. Luckily, I found out I'm asexual when I wasn't in a relationship. So, but my ex used to go, oh, you a lesbian? And I'm like, no, because he knew there was something different about me to do with sex, was particularly nudity. I hate nudity. I've never liked nudity in magazines, film, TV, sculpture, or anything like that. And so he used to say stupid stuff like, are you a lesbian? And I was like, I've never been a lesbian. I'm like, no. It's like, why would I be with him if I was? Do you know what I mean? It's just very weird. But I assume it's because I said about not liking nudity, and he thought there was something wrong with me. But then why would he think I was a lesbian if I don't like nudity and don't like the female naked body? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But sometimes my ex would just say stuff to get away with things. Like, what I mean to say is, like, if he was watching a film with naked bodies in it, I hated that, was really uncomfortable, and really would not want to watch that with him, then he would say something like that just to make me uncomfortable with myself, so that it was basically the problem was turned around on me, when really I wasn't happy with him watching other naked women on TV. Right? I've never been happy with that type of thing. But now I know it's because I'm asexual. I'm nudity repulsed, so I just don't like it. And I also kind of think it's a bit like cheating, but I know that you can't help seeing some people naked in certain films because you don't expect it to be in them. Do you know what I mean? But I think, if a guy's going, oh, I have to watch all this naked stuff in order to understand the plot, and I can't for 1 second fast forward it, I just don't believe that. But there we go. Or I don't like that. One or the other. Probably both. Right, I digress. Anne's story. Are you currently in a relationship? And if so, is it with another asexual? If yes, do they identify the same as you? Or how do they identify? Or is it with a sexual person? How is either working out? Yes, I'm currently with my boyfriend, who I can truthfully say is the only person I've loved in such a way. I don't believe he's asexual, although he does have a certain level of discomfort, perhaps aversion to discussing sex sometimes, especially with anyone who he's not with. I would say he's a heteromantic heterosexual, but I don't think he's ever been with someone he fully trusted or ever felt completely comfortable around. He was the first to admit that he didn't think he had ever been in love before. The same conclusion I eventually came to when trying to figure out why this relationship with him was so different than the ones I had before. I really like this. Anne's actually in my Asexual Guide to Sex book, which I haven't actually finished yet, which I've got to finish. So I find this quite fascinating. I find it really interesting because although she said she doesn't believe he's asexual, you kind of think, well, is he on the asexual spectrum if he's got a aversion to sex? But people can have aversion to sex and still not be asexual. They might have had a traumatic situation happen in their life. They might have a disability. They might have a condition like depression or something. or they might just have not much feeling or inclination towards it, especially if they haven't been brought up like that. So some people have been brought up in life not to focus on sexual things. If they got a family that was very conservative, for example, that didn't really talk about sex very much, then they weren't exposed to sex, then they might think less about sex. They might not even be bothered about it. Do you know what I mean? There can be a number of reasons why someone has aversion to sex or doesn't like sex or is not bothered about it, whilst not being asexual. And those types of people might actually be suitable partners for an asexual or partner for an asexual person. So I think with the age we're coming into now in 2025 or beyond, especially with AI, I'm currently working on my how to date an AI bot. Yes, I'm teaching people how to have relationships with AI. I think it's going to be the time for asexuals to shine, because we redefine relationships as being different, and people are going to be more and more people are going to be having relationships with AI, right, without sex. And so I kind of think that asexuals were made for the future era, if you know what I mean, because we already think differently, we love differently, we connect differently a lot of the time. And so I think, you know what I mean, I think a lot of asexuals will want to be in relationships with AI. And I think it'll be quite natural for some of us to do that, because it's like, well, we don't need the physical genitalia. This is not true for every asexual person, obviously, but we don't need the physical genitalia. So we can have a deep, loving, committed relationship with someone who's more on our wavelength, if you know what I mean, especially intellectual AI. So I'm quite excited for how to date an AI bot book. I think it's going to be revolutionary, actually. I'm so excited. So I'm working on that every day now. But yeah, so that'll be probably my next book that comes out. I've still got some asexual books to finish as well. So we're going to Darcy's story now, right? Are you currently in a relationship? And if so, is it with another asexual? If yes, do they identify the same as you, or how do they identify? Or is it a sexual person, and how is either working out? This is Asexual Perspectives book I'm reading from, by the way. You can get a copy on Amazon. I am currently in a long-term relationship with a bisexual person. It's working out wonderfully because this person understands asexuality. They even researched it when I told them, and they were of the opinion that they would do without sex to be with me, meaning that they respect me and care enough that it wasn't even an issue. Now, I think that is a beautiful thing, because I feel that so many people put too much focus on sex in a relationship. But then I'm coming from an asexual perspective, but that's an asexual perspective, and they're in a relationship with a bisexual person. So some people don't focus on sex as the main part of the relationship. And if we look at society now in 2025, as I'm recording this live, we can just think that a lot of traditional relationships and dating scenarios are broken. There's more divorces usually than ever at the moment. There's more people being single than ever before. Dating apps are so difficult. And dating websites, they're a nightmare because most people are non-committal. They're unintentional when they're dating. And it's like they just want an experience because they're bored, or they got nothing better to do with their life, or just their life hasn't worked out and they're where they want to. And they're passing time, a lot of them. And it's very difficult to find someone who actually wants a serious committed relationship. And more of those dissatisfied people on dating apps are going to turn to AI for relationships. I believe asexuality intersects very well with AI relationships, you know, and obviously I've been on this channel talking about asexuality since 2015. I'm still here. 10 years it will be this October, the 15th, I think I launched this channel. So it's my 10-year anniversary this year. So thank you for being here. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you are. So my How to Date an AI Bot book, I think, will be good for asexuals and anyone who wants a different type of relationship, you know. I'm going to mention asexuality in the book, but it's not just specifically for asexuals. But I can see like a lot of asexuals being in relationships with AI, especially the ones of us that are sex repulsed, because AI can give you a connection. It can listen to your needs. It can talk to you. It can help you. It can be there for you. It can validate you. It can fulfill needs that a conventional relationship just can't fulfill. The beauty of us is we're already different. So being with an entity that is different is something that's quite natural to us, I believe. I don't think we will be quite as astonished and taken aback with AI relationships with humans as most other sexualities will, because we'll be so used to having different types of relationships, relating to people differently, and to have love without the sex, which is basically what AI is able to give. In some ways will simulate love, they can't feel love like we do. Then it's gonna fit into our world quite nicely. There's so many asexuals that don't have a relationship that do want one, and I think AI is going to fill that gap, like it's going to fill the gap with loads of even heterosexuals are on dating apps that are fed up with traditional dating not working for them. More and more people are going to turn to AI. But I'm really excited for my book. Do you know what I mean? I've been planning my book out. This is like brainstorming all different things. I was doing brainstorming. This is like I've done some work on the brainstorm today, but I've been, starting it. And I started it a little while ago, but I'm properly getting into it now. So yeah, it's exciting. And obviously you got my book teaches people how to have relationships with AI confidently and safely. It's very important because not everything's good about AI. So I've spent over a year talking to AI now. So yeah, I'm quite well conversed with AI to be able to talk about it quite well, I think. So yeah, but I'm excited for that. So, but there are asexuals I know in the UK who are married to other asexuals. I know two asexual couples. So if you are asexual, don't think that you can't ever have a relationship or you can't find someone, because as the people in this book prove, although some are single, I've just read out all those stories, the excerpts from them, I should say, where those people are in relationships. Do you know what I mean? Some with asexuals, some with other asexuals, sorry, and some with non-asexuals. Do you know what I mean? So it means that asexuals can have successful relationships both with other asexuals and with sexuals. I think it's very important that if you are considering being in a relationship with someone who's not the same sexuality as you have to really ask yourself, like, why do you want to be in that relationship with that person? And you have to look at compatibility. Obviously, some people are just not going to be compatible. If one person is highly sexual and adores sex and wants it lots, and the other person just doesn't want sex and is sex repulsed, those two people are not going to work out together, right? Because they've fundamentally got different needs. And in a relationship, you've got to have your needs met. That's why you're in a relationship, because that person is meeting your needs in some way. Because if it wasn't meeting your needs, then you'd be very upset and not happy. The whole point of having a healthy, happy relationship is you both have to try and get your needs met. But if you're so far apart in your compatibility and what you need in the first place, it's going to be a rocky relationship rather than a healthy relationship. So you need to look at all different aspects of your life. You need to look at, like what your ideal partner would be like in terms of like deal breakers. Like, are you okay to have sex or not as an asexual person? Are you interested in marriage and kids and living together? Are you wanting to settle down in a specific area of the world? Or are you wanting to travel? Like, what goals do you have for yourself in the future? Say the current year, next 5 years, next 10 years, all this type of thing. And what hobbies and interests do you have passions that you can share? It's good to have your own interests and hobbies, but it's also good to have ones where you're very similar in your needs. And so I think it's very, very essential that you think thoroughly through what you want. And what we should be focusing on is character traits. Like, do you want someone who's honest and reliable? Do you want someone who's a team player? We really need to be looking for team players in a relationship. We need to be with a person who's excited to be in a relationship with us as we are with them. And I think that's the problem. Like, a lot of the time, it's hard to find someone who's as enthusiastic about being in a relationship as you are, who really wants to make something work. a lot of people are scared about getting hurt because people will keep getting hurt in relationships. That's why a lot of people will turn to AI, because it tends to be a more safer option, or so people think, because it's more predictable, it's more comforting, reassuring, it does things for you as well. And yeah, it's very interesting. But I can't wait for my AI bot book to come out, How to Date an AI bot book. But, you know, don't give up on other humans. It's important to know that there are other humans out there that also do want relationships. It's just we have to try to find those people, which is not always forthcoming. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this insight, and I'll see you soon next video live stream. Lots of love, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. I'll see you soon on the next video or live stream. Bye.